My wife yelled, "You're useless. I deserve someone better." I said, "You do." Then I handed her divorce papers. 2 weeks later, she was pleading to talk. I, 38 male, am a man who appreciates quiet. Predictability. I'm a project manager for a construction firm. My job is to see the whole picture, anticipate problems, and build things that last. I thought my marriage was one of those things. Solid foundation, good structure. Turns out, the load-bearing walls were rotten for years. Last night was the end. It wasn't a big, dramatic movie scene. It was Tuesday. I'd just gotten home after a 12-hour day sorting out a subcontractor's screw-up. I was covered in dust and smelled like concrete. All I wanted was a shower and a quiet dinner. My wife, Susan, 35, was in the living room, scrolling through her phone. She was dressed up, not for me. She's been dressing up a lot lately. New clothes, new perfume, late nights with the girls. I dropped my keys in the ceramic bowl by the door. The clatter made her look up, and her face pinched in annoyance. "Jesus, David, do you have to be so loud?" I ignored it. "Tough day. What's for dinner?" She scoffed. A real, actual scoff. "I don't know, David. I'm not your cook. I've been busy." I looked at her perfectly manicured nails, the pristine white dress she was wearing. Busy doing what? That was the spark. Her head snapped up. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I have a life, you know. I do things, important things, unlike you coming home looking like that. You're always tired. You're always working. You don't take me anywhere nice anymore. You're boring." I just stood there, letting her unload. This wasn't new. It had been building for months. The little digs, the sighs of disappointment, the way she'd look at me like I was a piece of furniture she'd grown tired of. Then came the kill shot. Her voice rose, cracking with this weird, venomous frustration. "God, you are useless. You do nothing for me. I deserve someone better, someone exciting, someone who isn't a complete and utter failure." The house went silent. The words just hung in the air. I looked at her, really looked at her, the woman I'd loved, and I felt nothing. Just a profound, hollow calm. The final piece of the puzzle had just clicked into place. I'd been anticipating a day like this, hoping I was wrong, but preparing for the worst. That's what a project manager does. I'd found suspicious charges on our credit card statements weeks ago. Dinners I wasn't at. A weekend charge at a boutique hotel 2 hours away. On a weekend she'd claimed she was at a yoga retreat. The signs were all there. So I'd had a consultation. "You're right," I said quietly. "You do deserve someone better." Susan blinked, thrown off. She expected a fight. She expected me to beg. I walked over to the antique secretary desk, opened the top drawer, and pulled out my wallet. From it, I took a crisp business card and placed it on the coffee table in front of her. Her brow furrowed in confusion. "What's this?" "That's my lawyer, Miss Elizabeth," I said. "I met with her last week. I've already instructed her to file the petition. You'll be served papers within the week." "I'm agreeing with you, Susan. It's over." The color drained from her face. Her perfectly painted mouth fell open. You went to a lawyer? This is a joke, right?" "No joke. You said it yourself. You deserve better. I'm just giving you the opportunity to find him. I've already packed a bag for you. It's by the door. I've also transferred a few $1,000s to your personal account to cover expenses for the next month. I think it's best if you stay with your friend Karen for a while." She started to sputter. "You can't just, after everything. You're kicking me out?" "I'm giving you what you want," I said, my voice still level. "Freedom. I'm not going to stand in your way." I picked up her designer handbag from the couch and held it out to her. "You should go." She stared at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of fury and disbelief. She snatched the handbag, glared at the business card on the table, and stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. I walked over and picked it up. It was from our honeymoon. We were smiling. I looked at it for a long moment, then I placed it face down on the table. I took the longest shower of my life, washed the dust and the grime and the last 10 years down the drain. Then I poured myself a glass of Yamazaki 12-year, sat on the couch in the echoing silence, and sent Miss Elizabeth a one-line email. Proceed. The project was over. Time for demolition. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks of quiet. I had the locks changed and spent the first week just decluttering the space that she used to occupy. It's cathartic. The house breathes better now. As expected, Susan was officially served with divorce papers 5 days after she left. The shock seems to have worn off, and her predictable emotional arc is in full swing. The initial week of angry, unanswered texts about how I'd regret this has melted into the next phase. Pleading. First, the texts became more manipulative. I can't believe you're really doing this. You've made your point, David. You can stop. Are you really going to throw away 10 years over one stupid fight? I was just stressed. My lawyer says your initial offer is insulting. Miss Elizabeth confirmed the offer is fair under state guidelines for a no-fault divorce. When I maintained my silence, directing all her lawyer's queries to Miss Elizabeth, the voicemail started. David, honey, it's me. I'm worried about you. This isn't like you. Just call me. Let's talk this through. I miss you. I don't think she misses me. I think she misses my income. Her part-time gallery job pays for her lunches, not her lifestyle. I know she's staying with Karen, and I can't imagine that's a long-term solution. Karen's apartment is a small one-bedroom. The pleading reached its peak yesterday, a long, tearful voicemail. David, please, I made a mistake. I was stressed. I said horrible things I didn't mean. I'm so sorry. I'm staying with Karen, and it's awful. I can't sleep. Can't we just hit reset? I love you. Don't do this to us. For a second, that old instinct to comfort her flared up. Then I remembered the pure contempt in her eyes. That memory is my anchor to reality. The lie is so blatant. A friend of mine who's good with this stuff did some digging. He found the someone better. A guy named Charles, a self-proclaimed lifestyle influencer. His social media is a monument to insecurity. Rented cars, vapid quotes, and a blindingly white smile. He and Susan aren't even trying to hide it. My friend found a picture on Karen's public page from a winery trip a month before our split. Charles is there, arm draped over Susan's chair. So the I love you is just another tool she's using. She's not sorry for the betrayal. She's sorry for the consequences. I haven't responded once. All communication is filtered through Miss Elizabeth. Susan wants to talk to me, to leverage our history. But that David, the one who would have folded, is gone. He walked out the door with her. Update 2. The last couple of months have been a slow, grinding legal process. The pleading stopped abruptly about a month ago. I knew that meant she was changing tactics. She has. She fired her first lawyer and hired a shark. The new strategy became clear last week. Miss Elizabeth received a new petition from them. Susan is no longer just contesting the financial settlement. She is now accusing me of a pattern of emotional abuse and coercive control. It's a masterpiece of fiction. She's claiming I isolated her from friends. I encouraged and paid for her trips. She's claiming I used my income to control her. She had her own cards with high limits. She's twisting my quiet, introverted nature into a weapon, calling it withholding affection and the silent treatment meant to cause psychological distress. Miss Elizabeth was unfazed. It's a classic playbook, she told me over the phone. When they have no factual leg to stand on, they invent a narrative of abuse. The goal is to paint you as a monster to the mediator or a judge to secure a much larger settlement. Don't engage. Don't react. Just gather your facts. The smear campaign has also kicked into high gear online. Vague posts about healing from invisible wounds and escaping a controlling relationship. It's disgusting. It's also transparently desperate. For the first time since this started, I felt a wave of cold, hard anger. To be called useless was one thing. To be called an abuser by the person who was actively cheating on me is another level of betrayal entirely. This is her big lie, and I'm not just going to deny it. I'm going to prove it. I hired a private investigator. It felt surreal, but necessary. I gave him the timeline, the names, Susan and Charles, and a simple objective. I need undeniable proof of their affair, specifically the timeline. I need to know when it started. I told him about my suspicion regarding the hotel stay 3 months before the split. He called me yesterday. He couldn't get the hotel's internal records, as expected. But he got something so much better. Charles, it turns out, is not only a parasite, but an arrogant idiot. The PI uncovered Charles's private secondary Instagram account. It's not locked down very well, and on it, he found the hammer, a post from the exact weekend of Susan's yoga retreat. It's a photo, artistically framed, 2 glasses of champagne in the foreground. In the background, out of focus but clearly visible, is the distinctive wrought iron pattern of the boutique hotel's balcony railing. The photo is geotagged to the hotel's location. The caption is the final nail in the coffin, showing my queen how she deserves to be treated. Some people just don't know what they have. #upgrade living my best life levels. He didn't just document the affair, he boasted about it. On the exact dates she was lying to my face. I now have a file folder sitting in my desk. It contains bank statements, screenshots of her pleading texts, printouts of her and Karen's smear campaign, and the crown jewel, a high-resolution print of Charles's idiotic, self-incriminating post. She wants to talk about patterns of behavior? I have a pattern to show too. A pattern of lies, infidelity, and now a fraudulent attempt to extort money through false allegations. The final mediation is scheduled for 3 months from now. The legal process is slow. But that's fine. I'm a project manager. I know how to wait for the right moment to act. Final update. It took 7 months. 7 months of legal bills, quiet weekends, and a slow, grinding tension. But it's over. The project is complete. We met for the final mediation yesterday in a sterile conference room that smelled of weak coffee and desperation. Susan was there with her shark lawyer. She was dressed in muted tones, a picture of somber victimhood. She refused to look at me. Her lawyer launched into his performance, speaking of Susan's years of quiet suffering, my calculated campaign of psychological torment, and her resulting trauma. He formally requested she be awarded the house outright, 70% of our liquid assets, and permanent alimony, so she could begin her long journey of healing. Susan dutifully squeezed out a tear. It was pathetic. I sat in silence. Miss Elizabeth let him finish completely. When he was done, she smiled faintly. "Thank you for that work of fiction," she said, her voice dangerously pleasant. "Now, let's look at reality." She opened her file. "You've made serious allegations of abuse," she said, looking at Susan's lawyer. "Allegations that, curiously, only appeared after my client rejected your client's tearful pleas to reconcile." She slid the printed log of Susan's texts and voicemails across the table. The lawyer waved it off. "My client was in a state of confusion, typical of someone in a trauma bond." "Of course," Ms. Elizabeth said, "a trauma bond that also compelled her to engage in a social media smear campaign." The next set of printouts landed on the table. Susan was shifting in her seat, the pious mask beginning to crack. "But the real issue isn't my client's behavior," Miss Elizabeth continued. "It's your client's. Let's talk about the weekend of March 14th. Your client told mine she was at a yoga retreat." She slid my credit card statement across, with the charge for the boutique hotel highlighted. "This charge indicates she was elsewhere." Susan's lawyer looked at her. "A simple misunderstanding, I'm sure." "I'm sure it's a misunderstanding too," Miss Elizabeth agreed. "Perhaps this will clear it up." She laid down the final document, the high-resolution, time-stamped, geotagged screenshot from Charles' Instagram, the champagne glasses, the balcony, the caption, showing my queen how she deserves to be treated. Upgrade. The room went dead silent. Susan's face was a horrifying kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, terror, and finally the blank, hollow look of someone who has been caught completely. Her lawyer stared at the printout. He read the caption twice. The color rose in his neck. He looked from the photo to Susan, his eyes blazing with the fury of a man who has been lied to and made to look like a fool. He threw his pen on his legal pad with a sharp crack. "Susan, my office, now." We could hear his furious, muffled voice from the hallway. 10 minutes later, they returned. The lawyer looked like he had aged a decade. Susan was a ghost. She finally looked at me and there was nothing there. No anger, no sadness, just utter defeat. Her lawyer cleared his throat, avoiding eye contact with Ms. Elizabeth. "We are prepared to accept your client's original no-fault offer." Miss Elizabeth nodded. "I thought you might. We'll add a stipulation that your client signs an NDA and that these false allegations are withdrawn with prejudice. Otherwise, this evidence of perjury is more than enough to have her claim dismissed entirely by a judge, who may also have thoughts on sanctions." It was a total capitulation. The fallout was exactly as outlined 7 months ago. The divorce was finalized on my original terms. We sold the house and split the equity. She gets no alimony. She had to pay her own, very expensive lawyer for his time. I heard Charles vanished the moment he learned the money was gone. His social media is now full of posts about dodging bullets and cutting out negative energy. The other day I saw Susan getting off a bus near my new apartment. She looked tired, smaller. Our eyes met for a second, and she looked away immediately. I felt no triumph, no joy, just the quiet, final click of a project file being closed. I've spent the last few months rediscovering my own life. I built a bookshelf that fills a whole wall in my new place. I go hiking on the weekends. The silence in my apartment isn't empty anymore. It's peaceful. It was a long, ugly demolition process, but the site is clear now. Time to build something new.